Welcome back to the program. And as we said earlier, that the popular Palestine Ramadan radio that used to happen in the month of Ramadan is back again. And of course, in conjunction with the PSA, the Palestine Solidarity Alliance, it's back on the program. And inshallah, every Tuesday, we'll discuss all things Palestine. And as we said before the break, tomorrow is Youth Month in South Africa. That is June. A public holiday will be on the 16th of June to honor the class of 1976 who took to the streets to protest the compulsory use of Afrikaans and Bantu education. And what happened changed the political landscape in South Africa. It was followed by the turbulent 1980s, which were then marked by international repulsion and sanctions against the use of gratuitous violence against students, mere students, youngsters. And what happened next was quite remarkable because the subsequent international boycott of the apartheid regime by many, many countries eventually led to the unbanning of political movements and eventually South Africa's freedom. Now, this youth month, the Palestine Solidarity Association's Youth League will be embarking on its own campaign to encourage youth to get involved in social justice campaigns. I'm joined now by Altaf Adam. He is the PSA Youth League chairperson. Altaf, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
وعليكم السلام ورحمة الله وبركاته.
Jazakallah khair for joining us this evening on the inaugural Tuesday night program right here on Salam Media.
Jazakallah for having me, for having us once again. Eager to get the show going and rolling. As you mentioned earlier, it was very successful, and as well for us, we want to continue the discourse and engage with those on the ground as well.
Absolutely. I know we said we're going to talk to you about your Youth Month campaigns, but of course, just to get straight into it, Altaf, the reason why the Palestine segment in Ramadan was so popular and so successful is because every single Muslim, no matter where they are in the world, they have a particular affinity to Masjid al-Aqsa, it being the third holiest masjid in Islam and the only one of three that we can actually go and travel towards. If you go to Umrah in Mecca, we can go for Ziyarah in Medina. We can also go to Masjid al-Aqsa in Al-Quds. But as I was saying, the reason why it was so popular is because we are so close to that part of the world. And in recent days, weeks, and months, even as recent as last weekend, we saw some horrific things happening in Al Quds. What comes to mind, of course, is the flag thing that happened on the weekend, but there's also the murder of Shireen Abu Akleh and obviously the disturbances in the month of Ramadan. But as a PSA activist yourself, what is your take on what has been going on in Palestine and occupied territories?
It's absolutely horrific and heartbreaking for us many miles away,
Mhm.
not being able to do anything physically, especially firstly being a Muslim and not being able to be there and stand with our Palestinian brothers and sisters. But not only is Aqsa a holy site for Muslims, but Christians as well. We're seeing lots of pastors come out and rabbis come out and talk about these events that are taking place by Zionist settlers, just blatantly going out and just wanting to cause havoc in the area. It's absolutely heartbreaking.
Yeah. Altaf, I'm just showing some pictures of some of the incidents that took place. I don't know if you saw the video of the Israelis going through the Arab quarter of Al Quds and, beating up women and the actual violence. What can you tell us about that type of violence between essentially what are neighbors? I mean, they're living in the same city. I mean, we all know that East Jerusalem, West Jerusalem, al-farq bain as-samai wal-ard, the differences between the heaven and earth in terms of facilities, but they essentially are from one city. Why so much of violence? What has emboldened the Israeli extremists to actually do that now?
Look, I think they're in a corner. We
Mhm.
really seeing these extremists in a corner with activists and people around the world actually starting to realize what is happening in Palestine is an apartheid. You know, we had really big reports come out from Amnesty International and Human Rights Watch in the last 2 years, stating that Israel is indeed practicing apartheid. So I think we're really closing in on that, and there's a huge support coming internationally for the Palestinian cause. It's been a long time, but there's lots of support coming through. We're also seeing young people in Palestine
Mhm.
starting to resist very actively, you know, with demolitions and taking over of their homes and things like that. So I think they're really in a corner and just don't know how to act any longer, and they're
Mm.
really pushing the limits at this point.
Yeah, and we saw a similar thing, didn't we, Altaf, back in the day in the 1980s, when the apartheid government in South Africa was increasingly under international scrutiny and pressure, particularly because of actions of the youth. And that brings me to our discussion. The youth of 1976, the class of 1976. That's what we actually going to be, celebrating in a month, from tomorrow onwards. But tell us about your take on the role of the youth in actually making change happen.
Look, of course, we know youth firstly have got the energy, you know, to drive these changes,
Right.
to go out, to protest, you know, physically, but also being the future, you know, we're seeing youth rising up to our own government locally, who are completely frustrated with the current situation and climate in our country. So I think youth play an essential and vital role in taking up all these social justice causes and movements and being part of these movements, because we do want to see a change. We want a better tomorrow for ourselves.
Absolutely. Okay, now, Altaf, please share with us your particular campaign, the PSA Youth League, for the month of June, in terms of what programs would you be initiating and what the aim and intention is.
Okay, so for the month of June, we're going to be running a social media campaign. We
Mhm.
will highlight activists, in young activists, both in South Africa and in Palestine. Just bring more awareness and trying to get as many people on board for the cause and behind the cause, of course. So that's one of the first things we'll be doing. Um, because we want to solidify the efforts that young people are taking
Right,
and the stand they're taking for Palestine.
right.
The second thing that we've been doing that we've done is we've partnered with the Ahmed Foundation, who are hosting a youth parade on June 16th, and this is speaking out against all the sort of injustices
Mhm.
we faced with, you know, the high unemployment rates, climate change, and all sorts of other social justice causes are being taken to government directly. And finally, we are going to be hosting our own youth festival, you know, where we're going to be inviting people from various organizations and communities to engage on the day in interactive workshops, you know, to build their skills and capacity to better take up these causes. So we're going to be partnering with Amnesty International and AKF, the Ahmed Katara Foundation, of course. There's going to be various workshops on the day on mental health, research and writing, poetry. Um, and finally, there's going to be a youth debate at the end of the day. This is going to be taking place on the last weekend of June. Of course, we ask everyone to keep an eye out on our social media for more details.
Mhm. Altaf, I think it's very important that you mentioned the fact that youth in this country are, going through quite a number of challenges. You mentioned the high unemployment. The figures came in today, a little bit improvement, but still the worst in the world, as I was telling my previous guest. And the one group that is particularly vulnerable are youth. People between the ages of 15, or is it 16, and 25. Um, how difficult is it to get youth to rally around social social campaigns or social justice campaigns when many of them can barely just eat, barely have a meal, barely have somewhere to live. I mean, they're living with their parents, but under great, straitened circumstances. How have you managed to navigate that? Because most youth just want jobs or even anything to put food in their stomachs or on the table.
Look, I think we faced with a combination of COVID and everything moving virtual, and along with the high unemployment rates, we do find it challenging to mobilize youth,
Hmm.
especially when there's travel involved. When it's out of the community or area, there's often a need for us to support them with transportation at the very least. Um, so I think young people are extremely hungry to get involved, to rally behind these causes, but given our climate in the country, it is difficult for them as well. But we're also seeing some creativity from young people. You now get Twitter spaces and Instagram lives and all sorts of things where young people are gathering and discussing the issues that are facing them. And I think we're at a point where young people are very frustrated and they want to see a change for themselves
Hmm.
in
Hmm.
this
Hmm.
country, especially first.
Yeah. And that frustration you're talking about, I know that the frustration of living under apartheid and being forced to learn in a language that you don't really recognize is not the same as not been having not having had a job for a long time. Those are different types of frustrations, but both can actually erupt in anger. We saw how the anger erupted in 1976 and how it changed the course of history in South Africa. We've had the Arab Springs in various parts of the Africa and the Arab world, where youth said, "Look, enough is enough. The government is not doing anything for us." Do you think South African youth have reached that level where they're almost about to, or do you think it's still early days yet? Well, what's your assessment?
I won't say it's early days. I think with the pandemic and the
Hmm.
crisis, the war between Russia and Ukraine, things are getting really tough.
Right.
Not only for young people, for everyone in the country. So I think
Mm.
we inching very closely to seeing some sort of change being brought about by young people. People, you're seeing so many videos on social media about people talking about the current economic climate and that just the overall difficulty being faced in finding jobs. I mean, it's costing young people over 1,000 rand a month just looking for a job if you're seeking employment
Mm.
actively. So
Mm.
I think we coming to a point where I think South African youth are definitely going to rise up.
Hmm. What do you think government should do, Altaf, or those that are responsible, policymakers? Do you think they would ignore this anger at their own peril?
Well, if they do, I mean, we know what politicians are like, unfortunately,
Mm.
in the country. So if they do, I think it's very dangerous. I mean, we don't
Right.
need to look too far back. We need to look back to 2016, 2015, 2016, when we had the Fees Must Fall protests. And that was youth
Right.
coming around the country all together under one cause.
Right.
So I don't think we need to look too far back for us to see South African youth uniting under our cause.
Mm. Altaf, just before I let you go, once again, those youth initiatives that are going to be taking place um, uh, all throughout the month of June and on June 16th, could you please repeat or reiterate those so that we can keep them top of mind for the viewers?
Sure. So we'll be running the social media campaign on our social accounts, highlighting young activists. That's one thing to follow. We'll be hosting our very own youth festival at the end of June. Um, People can get in touch with us through our social media accounts, or they can get in touch with info at palestine sa.co.za. Um, We are also joining the AKF Youth Parade, where we're going to be, marching on our causes for unemployment, climate justice, all these challenges and causes that young people are faced with in South Africa. That's happening on June 16th.
All right. Altaf, thank you so much for your time. May Allah reward you for the work you do. And inshallah, we'll speak to you very soon. Jazakallah khair for being our inaugural guest on Palestine Radio right here on Salam Media.
Shukran for having me.
Afwan.
Assalamu
Altaf
alaikum.
Adam. Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. And we have some, in fact, that was Altaf Adam, rather. He is the Youth League chairperson of the PSA, of course, talking to us there about some of the initiatives that are going to be taking place in the month of June. We've had some comments. First comment that we have here is from Leah Lynette Robbery, and she says that permaculture projects within communities will establish food security. And we also have another message here from I think it's the same person saying that instead of showing anger, people should move the anger into action and self empowerment. Like I said earlier, we do welcome your comments, and you certainly can comment on any interview that we've had on the program tonight. Our WhatsApp number 061 766 0355. Of course, you can also comment on this platform on Facebook and other social media platforms, as well as the online streaming on salammedia.com. So we're going to take a break, and when we come back, we change tact now, and we go into the rest of the continent. And of course, inshallah, our first story is in Africa's most populous nation, Nigeria. Stay tuned.